All right. Hello to my steamers, my scientists, technologists, my engineers, my art people, as well as my mathematicians. Thank you for logging in, watching this. Welcome to Make Learning Stay with Science. Um, Another interview, and this time we have an engineer. I've been having some trouble finding an engineer just because my friends are doctors and pre-med and pre-dent and all of that. But I finally found one, and I'm so excited because just in our pre-interview, he was telling me some of the really cool things that he did. Or he does, I should say. So without further ado, we're going to get started. It is in Tyron, you're in Texas, right? You're currently in Texas?
I'm in Huntsville, Alabama.
Husband. Okay, I didn't know if your masters were like online or anything. Okay, so he's in Alabama. Well, in my house, it's crazy, Tyron, because I have five kiddos all the way from Clyde is 20 all the way to 9, and they get crazy. So yeah, I just have to ignore the background because I really wanted to make this interview happen. All right. So without further ado, Tyron, would you please introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do as an engineer?
Okay, well, I'm Tyron Singleton, 26 from Houston, Texas. I went to Crosby High School for my education, well, high school education. And after Crosby High School, I ended up going to Tuskegee University, where I majored in aerospace engineering. After finishing there, it took me about 5 years. After finishing there, I ended up pursuing my master's degree at Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University up here in North Alabama, Huntsville. And I currently work for People Tech as a systems engineer, specializing in modeling and simulation, which, that's my job title, but I do a lot of other stuff. My company is basically a contract company for the U.S. government, meaning that the U.S. government has different opportunities, different jobs, and different things like that that they need somebody to fulfill. So whether it's like creating a new helicopter, creating a new fighter jet, creating new missiles or satellites or something, they basically put these contracts out for engineering firms to bid on, and the company may bid on it. Right now, my company, I think we bid it on the contract for about $125 million. So that's what I'm currently working on. And of course, I'm not getting $125 million, but I get a small portion out of it, a decent salary. And basically, what I do on a day to day basis, we're in the process of transitioning to a different project. So right now, I'm working on what we call MADS, which is something for the Space and Missile Defense Command Agency. So basically, without giving too many details, I make sure all of our government satellites are secure from outside threats, whether it be cyber attacks, like somebody hacking them, or whether it be like somebody trying to shoot them down. But the project that we're getting ready to work on is something for Redstone Test Center, and we're basically testing different components of the Army's future helicopters. So these are helicopters that aren't in production yet. They're going to come around. I think the first one is selected for 2026, and the last one is selected for 2060. So we're basically testing different components of these helicopters to make sure that we can roll them out successfully. We also are working on something called Rapid, I believe. And it's basically lasers that can shoot down like missiles and stuff like that. So something pretty cool. I mean, you can
Ah,
look it up as directed energy if you
okay.
want to.
Okay, say that one more time, and I'm gonna have you like email me that. So if they want to look it up, they could. I'm gonna have you email me that so I can put it in the description. So that sounds like a lot,
Okay.
Tyron. I mean,
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's a lot. So okay, so what does it take? education wise, I know you said you went to college 5 years, but I mean, I don't know. To me, that it's is does your engineering type have a special name? Like, are you a certain? Because I've heard mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. Is your engineering? Does it have like a special name or anything?
So my degree, what I studied at Tuskegee, is aerospace engineering. So
Aerospace.
aero meaning dealing with anything that flies. So well, it's more than just anything that moves through a fluid. If we want to get scientifically
I love
accurate,
it. Yes. Yeah.
fluid can be air, it can be water, it could be anything that takes the shape of the container that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
So I can technically design submarines, boats, airplanes, rockets, anything like that.
Okay.
Aerospace, multiple applications. Uh, what my specialty is what you call astronautics. That's what I took a liking to, which is like space and things like that. And I got that inspiration like as a kid living in Houston. We would go to Johnson Space Center, and I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to be an astronaut. I always wanted to be an astronaut. And then eventually I realized that I have asthma, so it's probably not, work out in my best favor. I still apply for the astronaut class every year, but I mean, I'm pretty much aware that I'm probably not going to get it. So I want to figure out if I can't go to the moon or go to Mars, then how can I help people get there? You know,
That's
so that's why.
I love that. If you can't go, how can you help other people get there? How can you contribute to that? I got chill bumps just hearing that. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, just real quick, because you talk about you apply to the astronaut class, like, so what would it take to even be an astronaut? Because you at least have a glimpse, being that you apply for the class every year, just a little bit. You don't have to talk on it long.
It's a lot. I mean, you can go to NASA's website and they have all the requirements, but I know you're not supposed to be past a certain height. You got
Okay.
to be somewhere maybe like I think it's between like 5'7" and like 6'1",
Okay.
just so you can get inside the capsule. And you have to have like be able to think on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, have a wide knowledge of stuff. You don't necessarily have to be an engineer. They do look for engineers. They look for chemists. They look for doctors. There's a big push for people that are in the arts right now, and a lot of the people that become astronauts are former Navy pilots. So if you really want to get into it, I would recommend going into the Navy. You can still study aerospace and then go into the Navy and become a pilot. I have a couple of friends from Tuskegee that are Navy pilots, and they're trying to become astronauts. So
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. So I love and thank you for telling us how you got that inspiration. Going to the Johnson Space Center as a kid, wanting to be an astronaut. So you focused in on aerospace engineering. I know as a teacher and even as a parent, because I have a son who says he wants to be an engineer, but that's sometimes all people know. Like they just say they think engineer, but I have come to realize that engineering is kind of like being a doctor. I mean, there's a doctor for everything. There's a doctor for your foot. There's a doctor for your eyes. There's a doctor for your teeth. And then even when you get to your teeth, you have doctors that pull, doctors that put in. I mean, it's all kinds of doctors. So, am I correct in saying that there are all types of engineers?
yes, you're 100% correct. And not every university has every type of engineer. Probably
Okay.
starting off the most broad, general type of engineer will be a mechanical engineer, which is basically the mechanics of any device, whether it's gears, whether it's like fluids, whether it's anything. Mechanical engineers, they can apply to a position for like aerospace engineer and become an aerospace engineer. They can apply for a position as a chemical engineer and become an engineer. But just to name a couple types of engineer,
Yeah,
you
that would
have
be
like
great.
electrical engineer, which is like building like dealing with electric devices. You have computer engineering, software engineering, which is like writing computer codes and scripts, chemical engineering, which would be formulating different chemicals, whether it's makeup, whether it's food, whether it's plastics or anything like that. That's a chemical engineer. Um, you also have civil engineers, which are people who basically construct like bridges, roads, houses, things like that. Industrial engineers, which basically are industrial manufacturing, which basically like put together like the machines that build different things, kind of like a conveyor belt system.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so many types. Like
It's
you
so
can
many
look it up,
types.
you can look into it, and whichever one you want to do. However, some of them, like once you get into it, you know, there you don't necessarily have to study it. Like my title right now is a systems engineer. So basically, I look at the entire system as a whole. So I look at everything from an upper level, and what I went to school for an undergrad was more so underneath what I look at. So I try to look at the entire system of a rocket. Like, okay, we need fins, right? We need somebody who's into aerodynamics that can like test these fins. We need a propulsion system, somebody who's into like a chemical engineer, they can test the propulsions on it. We need an electrical engineer that can like make sure that everything listens and can communicate with the ground receivers and everything like that. So a systems engineer just looks at the whole of everything. So although I studied aerospace, because of the type of engineering my company does, and what I'm getting a master's in currently, I was able to work as a mechanical engineer. And there also are some people who they don't necessarily have college degrees. That's kind of is it's a little bit unheard of to do, but if you can get in at a company, maybe doing X, Y, and Z, and let's say you trained under somebody like a
Okay.
woman, she's a test engineer. She has a degree in psychology. She ended up maybe about 10 or 15 years ago. She had a contract with NASA where she was just basically typing up proposals for some stuff, and NASA had let go of like three of their test engineers, and they really needed somebody to fill in. So she was able to go in and like kind of help out because she shadowed the guy. And from that, they just made her a test engineer, and she's been doing that for 10 years now. She's the best at what she does.
Wow.
But to
Okay.
double back on what you said, like what does it take? Um, I'm not gonna lie. In high school, I wasn't the best student. I was a
That's
little
okay.
middle school up until about 10th grade, I was like one of the bigger guys, and I swore I was going to the NFL. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit older. I'm like, okay, everybody else got taller than me. It's like, okay, this is cool, but I'm probably not gonna be able to do the NFL thing or collegiate football or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, I always had this weird idea of being an astronaut or whether it's like, the space stuff that I like. So let me just look into doing that. So my mom, she's an educator. She took us on a cross country tour of HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. Me and my best friend, and he also wanted to be an engineer. He wanted to be a chemical engineer at the time.
Okay.
But we stopped at Tuskegee, and I fell in love with the school. Right? It's the only HBCU that offers aerospace engineering and like
Okay.
engineering. So it's almost like a family knit system. So going there, having people that are like me, that I could like depend on and kind of help me out. And from my background of not being taken school seriously to going to Tuskegee, and I'm used to like goofing off in class. I'm sitting in class, and my friend that I just made, we're hanging out all the time. Like I'm trying to be the class clown again. He's like, "Hey, bro, you're not studying? Like, what you got going on?"
Mm.
So that kind of like pushed me to like kind of do my work. And if I could go back in school, I would definitely learn the work ethic that I had to learn in college.
Mm.
Cause it definitely kicked my butt not knowing how to properly study. Cause in in high school, it came easy, just memorize a couple things and stuff like that. But once you get a test and they don't give you any formulas, they give you two formulas, and there's 30 formulas that are needed to solve the problem, but you have to have the understanding on how to get those formulas from those two.
That's
It's
right.
just like, oh man. And I'm not gonna lie, I had to take a couple classes over, but I got through it, and here we are.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. You know, um, just the fact of you having to take classes over in college, just in case you didn't know, depending on your major, at least I know where I went, you have to have if it's for your major, you have to have a certain grade in that class in order to get
Hmm.
credit for it. So if you don't make that grade, you have to take it over until you make that grade. I even had some friends who were I wouldn't say overachievers. I had some friends who were very serious and studious and ambitious. So they wanted their 4.0. So if they made a B, they took the class over and they didn't have to do it often. It's just, one class they had to take over because they wanted that 4.0 GPA. So, that's what they got. Yeah, that's all really good. Thank you for sharing just that pathway, and I like how you informed us on the fact that not all colleges have the engineering major or specialty, every engineering major or specialty. Like you gotta, if you want to go into engineering, you gotta kind of look to see like, oh, I want aerospace engineering, so I better look at schools or that have aerospace engineering. And when you said mechanical engineering is like the broad thing, it just, I don't know, I just thought about doctor, pre-med, that your general family physician, that's kind of like the broad thing. And then
Right. Let it be the equivalent of mechanical.
right, right. And like, so you go to your family physician first, and it's just like, oh, well, they can either tell you what's going on or they'll say, ugh, I have to refer you to a specialist. So that's pretty cool. What would you say, like, how would it work? You're aerospace engineer, that's what your degree is in. How would it work if you thought, okay, I'm a little bored. I'm done with aerospace engineering. I think I want to do because I remember what you said, civil engineering. What I mean, would you need to just would you just need to do a few classes, or would you like how would that work? Is that possible? Can people do that?
Um, Not necessarily. Like you wouldn't necessarily have to take a few classes. Like with the maths project that I work on, uh, I'm more so doing like software engineering stuff.
Okay.
So I have some experience doing coding or whatever job that I'm working on. I may have some experience doing X, Y, and Z. So if I just want to make a career change and go into building bridges or whatever, then I could apply to a company and express to them that I know how to do this, and I feel like this can relate to what y'all are doing, and
Mm-hmm.
I could just get a job doing whatever it is. They might see that I might be a better fit doing this rather
Mm-hmm.
than that. But you can make those changes like once you're in the industry.
Okay.
But by all means, if you want to go get another degree in civil engineering, go ahead, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. And what you I forgot. You're pursuing your master's in what?
Systems engineering.
Systems engineering. Okay. And having that master's, what do you how much would that open up to you? Like why even do it? I mean, I'm all for it. I'm like school is important, get everything you can. But, we have students, I know students, they sometimes think they pick careers based upon how little school there is. So why are you pursuing? You already got a job. Why do a master's?
Okay, so I don't want to say seem shallow, but
No.
the engineer degree, it'll open me up to a lot more possibilities. Like right now, I'm only working under, mostly aerospace stuff. But with systems, I'm looking at the general, like the whole system. So I could
Okay.
take that. The industry that I work in is military defense.
Okay.
I could take my systems degree and I can move from military defense to oil and gas if I want to, or like civil engineering or like cybersecurity or different industries. If I want to move to like food or something like that, I could move to that. Also, um, we're looking at an extra $30,000 to $40,000 a year on top of my
Mhm,
salary.
mhm.
So
That's not shallow. That's honest. Bills have to be paid, or we want to go on vacation somewhere. So that's
I
not
will
being shallow at all.
I will say the more you go to school, like the more education you have, like you get I guess what is it called? You have the option to move up. you know,
Mhm.
in your career. Like
Right.
you don't just necessarily stuck with one thing. And I
Mhm.
know like once I started my job, it's like, oh, what time do I have to be here? And they're like, you just have to work 8 hours.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, so what time do you have to be here? I mean, you really don't have to work 8 hours time. You can really just do 40 hours a week. So I can do 10 hours today, 10 hours the next day. And then, okay, all right.
I like
And then I
that.
can, like earlier today, I, I went into work, I had a haircut appointment at 9 o'clock. So I just logged out, went to my haircut appointment, and I just made up those hours by staying an extra hour. You know,
Mhm.
there's no, I mean, if I have a meeting or something, I have to be there, but it's a lot of flexibility. Next week, I'm going home to Texas. I have the ability to bring my work computer home and work from home, my grandma's living room, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm in the AC all day. I'm on the computer. Pretty fun, man.
It sounds fun to me. What would you say? So what are the subjects? And I'm talking general engineering. Well, no, let's talk your field in systems and aerospace. So what were like some of the subjects you feel like you need to be strong in order to be successful in your specific engineering?
I wouldn't say you need to be strong in them because
Okay.
honestly, in high school, my favorite subjects was history and
Mhm.
English. Like I like science too, but history and English. I took physics and I really liked that. We did like some project with like we had to make a roller coaster and
Mhm.
roller coaster. I love that. So when I got to college, I struggled in math in high school.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, Basically AP everything else but except math. So once I got to college and you take with engineering, I'm gonna be straightforward with you. You take a lot of math. Like I took pre-calculus, pre-calculus with trig, calculus one, calculus two, calculus three, differential equations, and engineering math.
Okay.
7 of them.
Right.
Took me forever to do them. I struggled with them. But once I learned that I learned how to study, I would
Mhm.
lock myself in a room. And math isn't a subject to where somebody can really teach it to you. You gotta teach it to yourself. And once you learn and you get it, it kind of gets fun. Like I hated math. I 100% hated math. When I tell you I hated math, like I hated it more than anyone else. But once you figure it out, it's like, oh, okay, I got this. But I will say math. Even if you're not good at it, you got to do what you got to do. So math and physics. If it's anything like mechanical, civil, or aerospace engineering, those kinds, civil. If it's like chemical or like computer or electronic engineering, then you need to get into like coding and stuff. But that's higher up classes.
I think you just debunked a lot of myths and like, oh, to be an engineer you have to be good at math. You just told me that as an engineer, a thriving engineer, you hated math and you struggled when you got to school, but you did what you had to do. The support was there and you made it through. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I'm glad that you shared that, because that's what a lot of people think: engineering, math, and I got to be good at it. Are there any engineering fields where you don't need a whole lot of math?
Well, aerospace engineering, we had to take extra maths. Like
Okay.
some of them, like mechanical, I think you take one less math. But I mean, there's gonna be you have to take the math classes just to get the sheet of paper. But
Correct.
once you go into the field, like what I do every day, I don't really use a lot of math. Like they just want you to have an understanding of for how it works. So if
Yeah.
you do come across a problem like, oh, X, Y, and Z, then okay, I know how to do that. I can do it if I have to. But
Okay.
9 times there are softwares out there like MATLAB or
Mhm.
CAD programming, like any type of design software. It kind of does it for you, but
Mhm.
you still need to know, like, so you don't become. There's a I have a mentor where he's 74 years old. He's been an engineer for 50 years, and
Wow.
he calls people that rely on tools tool monkeys. You don't want to necessarily be a tool monkey. Like you want to be able to understand the process, and I feel like that's what the classes are for. But no, you don't necessarily have to be just awesome in math. By all means, like if you're great at math, I'd recommend you should be an engineer. The money's out there. We're looking six figures. So
Okay, I like it. What oh gosh, I had a question and it escaped my mind. Um it was something along the lines of, okay, so we talked about the math. Okay, maybe it'll come back to me. You were saying that if you could go back, you would like learn the work ethic in high school that you needed to have in college. Could you elaborate that on that a little bit? Because I know with biology, I understand that everyone won't need biology as a biology teacher. But what I try to teach my students is the work ethic of sometimes you just got to grind through things to, like you said, get that piece of paper, or you got to learn how to study the things that you find to be boring, or you have to learn how to get an understanding of things when your teacher may not, be the best teacher. So, could you just talk on that a little bit? Give some advice to, and that's anyone, because we could, someone who could be just going back to school or trying this thing again. High school students could be watching this video. Could you just talk about that just a little bit?
so for me personally, certain stuff came a little bit easier to me, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't think in high school I never studied for a test, like ever. I would just go in, I would pay attention in class a little bit so I can kind of remember a little bit, and I go in like, okay, yeah, y equals mx plus b. All right, bet I remember that. Or just plugging in certain algebra formulas, and I could do enough to make a 68 or a 72, just enough to pass. But when I got to college, how it's structured is not the same way. Like, there's not a teacher there like, hey, Tyron, did you do your homework last night? You need to turn in your homework. First day in math class in Math 107, which is pre-algebra, pre-calculus, lady just came in. She just started writing on the board. And I'm trying to pay attention because I'm thinking it's high school still. And then she's like, okay, this is the suggested problems that we're supposed to do. I'm like, suggested problems? I'm like, we don't have to turn this. This is not homework. She's like, no, you only get three homework assignments for the year, and they're usually like quizzes or something. So I'm like, oh, all right, well, I stopped taking notes, and I got to the first test, and I'm thinking, yeah, I remember that, and I didn't put anything on the paper because I just went one ear and out the other, just so high level. So after I failed that class, it's like, okay, I got to do something different. My friends are passing. They left me behind. They taking calculus one, and I'm still trying to get over pre calculus. And I went to tutorials, and the lady kind of like broke it down to me like what I need to do. Like I know it says suggested homework problems, and she only gave me 8 of them. But for me personally, because I'm not good at math, I need to go to the book, find that section. I'm supposed to do questions 7 through I guess 16 or something like that, and I do those questions. Instead of doing that, I would do all of them, 1 through 26, and I just have to sit there and work at it because I don't get it. And those assignments was just for the entire week for that section that we were doing. And I wouldn't do them all at one time. I'm a procrastinator too, so I would wait till maybe like 2, 3 days before the test, maybe 4 days, and I would stay up all night just working these problems out, trying to figure it out. And it get to the point to okay, it come naturally. So by the time I took the class again, I was able to go in, just do the homework like she said, or do the suggested problems like she said, and I was good enough to take to pass the course. And I took
Mhm.
that same initiative with all my other courses, whether it was English or something, and I need to read a passage instead of reading it the night before. Just
Mhm.
I had friends that were like you were saying, kind of overachievers or studious. Soon as class is over, classes from 1 to 2, 2 o'clock, they go into their room and they study.
Yep.
2 o'clock, I'm trying to go to the yard, see what's going
Oh, the
on.
yard. It's funny y'all call it
Friend,
the yard too. Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to go hang out. Well, for people who don't know what I'm saying, it's like common the common meeting area on campus, like where everybody hangs, like a big party, you know. So I'm trying to go there after class. But once I figured it out, hey Todd, you can't really be. You can be one of those guys who goes hangs out on the yard, and they'll be gone in 2 3 years. They never finish. There's always 3 or 4 guys that's been at school for 8 years.
That's
I
so
wasn't trying to.
true. That's so true.
So
Yeah.
I had to buckle down and okay, let me. If I just go home right after this at 2 o'clock, and I just do a couple of these problems for an hour, that'd be great,
Hmm.
good enough. Then it comes naturally, and once you get into that rhythm, it's simple.
You are giving some really good advice. I know for the past few years I've taught pre-AP only biology
Yeah.
students. So that's been my only set of kiddos. And what we try to do is train them because it's pre AP thinking that y'all are probably going to college. So everything is not for a grade. You know, as a biology major, I mean, we had 4 tests a year. That was it. No daily work. You don't no extra credit. Um, you don't, I mean, no practice work. If you wanted to study, you studied. Dr. Brown would come in and start writing genetics notes on the board, or sometimes he didn't even write. He would just talk. And we were expected to, to do that. I haven't been in college in a minute, so I don't know how much things have changed, but I mean, just that fact of suggested, or I mean, that kind of means if you need to do them to make sure you know how to do them because you will see them on your
Right.
test. That's really good, really good. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. Are you the first engineer in your family?
I think I'm the first engineer. Me and my best friend, we both went to ski together. We're the first. I'm definitely the first aerospace engineer, I guess you could say, because what I do specifically is rocket science. I'm the first rocket scientist for my entire
I
community.
love for your entire community.
Yeah.
So, what do you I mean, what do you say to that person who has a dream that is so, I'm gonna just say, far out there that, no, I mean, you didn't have a role model, you didn't have anyone to look up to and say, oh yeah, I can do that. You didn't have a role model or someone that looked like you, someone that could, mentor you. Someone had, but people still have big dreams or dreams that are different. What would you say to that person who wants to do something different than everything they see, but they, I mean, it's just in them and they want to do it? How could they get there? How what would you say to them?
It's achievable. Like if that's what you really want to do, just go out there and do it. I'm a firm believer that humans can do like whatever they put their mind to. The Wright brothers, or I forget his name, but he's in Greek mythology. He's a guy, he wanted to fly, so he strapped wings to himself.
Mhm.
Or Leonardo da Vinci, he wanted to fly. You can see he had these flying machines. The Wright brothers, they wanted to fly, so they finally created, a way to fly. This is what 1910. Don't quote me on it. 1906, the early 1900s. In a matter of like 60 years, we landed on the moon. And like that's something that's so far fetched. Like if you think about that, like it's crazy. But if you put your mind to it and you really want to achieve it, I think that it can be done. Not Don't listen to people who say you can't do it, because if somebody tells you they can't do it, like they probably feel that way because they weren't able to do it. It's like
Mm.
self-protection. So just put your mind to it, and it's nothing to it but to do it. So
I love it. That's what I would love for my students to know. That, and glad you said that because I think we live in a time where flying is normal. you know, oh, space stuff, that's normal. Whereas,
right,
at once upon a time, people couldn't fly. You couldn't just jump on an airplane. Like that's so eye opening. And even for me, to motivate my little heart, it's just like just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. And,
right.
if you want to be that doctor or that lawyer or that engineer or that astronaut, provided that you are in the physical parameters to do it. I mean, you can do it, right?
Right. I mean, it's not gonna be easy because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Amen.
But
Amen.
as long as you really want to do it, then you'll do it. And if you end up not doing it, it's because you didn't really want to do it. So
I
it's
tell
gonna
my
be hurdle.
I tell my students, if it's important enough, you will make an excuse. I mean, if it's important enough, you'll make it happen. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. You'll find an excuse, I was too tired, such and such got in my way, or but if it's important enough, you will make it happen. I really thank you for this time, Tyron. I think this was awesome. It was phenomenal. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Anything else you want to say? Anything at all?
Uh,
You seem like
I,
such a laid back person.
I don't think but if you want to study aerospace engineering, I got to throw a plug out for Tuskegee University. Go ahead and look it up.
I like that.
We're a historical college founded in Tuskegee, Alabama. We birthed people like George Washington Carver, the guy with the peanuts.
Mm.
Booker T. Washington was our first president. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's wife, attended Tuskegee. Panoramic photographs invented at Tuskegee by James K. Polk.
You are
What
awesome.
else we got? The Super Soaker water gun invented at Tuskegee by Lonnie Johnson. So much. Damon Wayans, he went to Tuskegee. Lionel Richie, also Tuskegee alone. Uh, well, y'all probably too young, but Rich Boy, he had a song in the early, well, mid 2000s, Throw Some D's. He came from Tuskegee. So it's a bunch of us. I think we're number one producer of black aerospace engineers. We also like top 10 black engineers in general. Uh, the oldest nursing school in the state, well, the oldest nursing school in the state of Alabama, and one of the top producers of black nurses. Is also we're the only HBCU with a veterinary science program. It's a lot of stuff, but
Love it.
check it out, university.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually, she'll be in one of the interviews. She went to Tuskegee and she's a veterinarian.
I
Hmm.
probably what year you think she
Well, I'm
graduated?
not telling you my age. No, I think we're she would be a little bit before you. I think she'll be a little
Okay,
bit
well,
before you. Yeah,
she,
she yeah, when I interviewed her, I was so happy. She had her Prairie View degree on one side, her Tuskegee degree on the other. So, yes, now that you mention it, awesome veterinary program. Yes.
my mom still got my Tuskegee degree. I got to get that from her back in Texas.
Yes. Well, that was all awesome, great information. I went to Prairie View, which is a historical black college as well. And I mean, don't get it twisted. You don't have to be black to go to the college. So,
100%. I have a lot of
right.
Asian, Hispanic. It's a whole bunch of Middle Eastern, Arabic people that I graduated with. One of my best friends, his dad, he owns Air Dubai. He's from Dubai, so he sent him to Tuskegee to get a degree. So
Well, and and people don't know what they don't know. So I wanted to put that out there. People might be thinking, well, that sounds great, but yeah, you can go there too. It's for any and everyone. There is no separation. Well, I appreciate it, Tyron. This was so awesome. I'm gonna get some more information so I can like put some stuff in the link or down below in the description. So if they wanted to look up some of those things you were saying, they could just simply look those things up, how to be an astronaut, and then what was you saying, that synergy or energy, that
directed energy,
directed energy?
yeah, like you
Okay.
direct.
All right, sounds so good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed what you heard. I thought it was awesome, and I just look forward to hearing more, just hearing more. So, Tyron, we're gonna stop the recording. Just tell them bye bye.
All right, see y'all later or in the future.
Yeah.